Well, hi there. I'm going to show you how to do this hat, and it is my Frothy Wave hat. So it's in my Frothy Wave Stitch, and might not be so easy to see the stitch, but here's what it looks like. We'll put it the right way, and if I put it like this, you'll start to see that there's ridges. You'll probably see the pattern better if you look at my stitch video, because this is very colorful. But there's ridges here, here, here. It has a lot of texture. Now you're seeing it a little bit better, the texture. And the yarn is 100% wool on all this colored part, and I spun it myself, so it was just wool that I spun, and I kept adding different colors to get this effect. So you can use any bulky yarn to get this look, or you could do this on a thinner gauge and do it in worsted. The stitch works with any yarn you want, actually, and any gauge, as long as they match. I'm on a 42 peg Cindy Wood loom, 5/8 inch. And the other thing is this solid yarn that I'm using here, and I've just switched back to here. Now that yarn that I got to coordinate with this hat is a Valley yarn, Berkshire Bulky it's called, and it's 85% wool and 15% alpaca, and it's color 21 red purple. Okay, that's it. So I'll take you right now to the video of how to cast on and how to do the brim, and then we'll get into how to do the body. It's an owl-eye brim, so if you already know how to do that, you won't have to wait. You can skip through the video to get to that part, but if you need to know how to do the brim, all I did is the brim, and then I went right into the stitch. I'll show you when we get back. So I'll take you there. You'll learn how to cast on and do the brim, and we'll get going. See you in a bit. So I'm going to start by doing a chain cast on. It's a crochet chain cast on. I'm going to do it without a crochet hook. So what I do, I just take it, make a loop, just like that, and then put the working yarn through it and have a slip knot, and then I just place that on the first peg. And then I take my loom hook, put it under the loop, and pull the working yarn through to get a loop. And then I tighten it by pulling on the working yarn here in the back and make sure that this stitch is tight. And then I just take that loop, put it behind the next peg, holding on to it, and pull the working yarn through it. And that's all there is to the cast on. Put the loop behind, working yarn through, tighten it up, behind, working yarn through, tighten it up. And at any time, if you want this loop to be smaller, you just pull on it. So working yarn behind and tightening it up. I mean the loop behind and tightening it up. And that's all there is to it. And we just do that all the way around the loop. So I'm just going to put you on pause because it'd be boring watching me do it all the way around the loom. And we will catch up when I'm close to the other side. Okay, so here I am almost at the end. So I take the the loop, put it behind the peg, tighten it up, and then here's the one we started at. And so you just take the loop and let it fall over there. And just take the loom hook and knit it over, and now it's all secured and you're ready to go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do now is finish the cast on. So I'm going to do a row of owl eye. And so I just do a U-wrap over peg 1, come over, and then I do a wrap over peg 1 and 2, and just knit it over, and knit it over. Whatever peg you're on, peg 1, you go over peg 1 and 2, knit it over. I have lots of videos of owl eye on my channel, so you can go watch those if you'd like to see more of a demonstration of it. And then just around and knit it over. On peg 1 over peg 1 and 2, knit it over. And we just do owl eye all the way around. Okay, so I will meet you back up at the beginning peg again. Okay, so I've done my row of owl eye all the way around the loom, and now I'm going to do one row of purl, and it'll be the only purl in the whole hat. And I just want to do it here at the beginning of the brim to make sure that the edge stays nice and straight. So how you purl is you put the working yarn into the loop. There we go. And then pull up the working yarn, take the loop off, and let the loop fall to the front. So take the hook, put it in the loop, pull up the working yarn, and you pull up the whole loop and put the new loop on. Under, pick up the working yarn, put it on the peg, and tighten it up. And there's lots and lots of videos on YouTube if you haven't purled before. So we just do one row of purl. So I will meet you up when we get back to the starter peg again. Okay, so I've done my row of purl, and now I'm just going to do owl eye, and our brim is going to be owl eye stitch. So how we start that, there's our peg 1. We always come over and do a U-wrap on peg 1, and now we can go and do a second wrap over peg 1 and one over peg 2. And wherever we are, we're on peg 1, so we wrap 1 and 2, and we just keep going like that. And you can make your brim however long you like it. You could make just a 1-inch brim if you like thin brims. I'm going to do about 1.5 inches. If you like a really long brim, you can do one that's 2 inches long. So I'm just going to keep working in owl eye till I get the brim the length that I want it, and then we can catch up. Okay, I'm back, and this is just a 3-row pattern, and it's pretty easy to do. So I'll get some yarn out, and I'll start with one of the stitches in the 3-part row, and I'm doing this in a solid color, so you should be able to see the stitch better when we look at it. So I'm going to do a few rows of this till I get as long as I want cast off, and then it will match the brim at the top. You can do this though with any color you want, a solid color, a variegated color, anything. Okay, row 1 is purl. So we just purl, and I have to be careful because of the 100% wool here that I spun. This was my first real spin, so I'm pretty proud of it though. I did it good enough to be able to do a hat in it. I spun it on a spindle, if you were wondering how I spun it. So you just do the purl all the way around. There's lots of purling videos if you don't know how to purl, but just in case, I'll show you. Okay, you put the loom hook in from the top down to the bottom. You put the working yarn under, you scoop it up, and then you slide it up and make a new stitch by sliding it back on. So again, okay, and I'll just come in a little bit closer while I'm doing this. I'll show you one more purl stitch, hook, going under, scooping up the yarn and taking it up and slipping it back over. Okay, and snugging it up a bit. So we'll go all the way around to the first peg and then we'll do the next stitch. So we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so I'm about to do the last stitch here, and I guess I better just fix this a little bit. There, okay, now excuse me, so I'm going to do the last purl here, and that's it. Row 1 is done. Okay, now for row 2. Now row 2 and row 3 is the same. It's owl eye. So to start owl eye, when you haven't been doing it, you go over in a U-wrap, and then nice and loosely you come back over it and over the next peg. Okay, then you're at peg 1, you go over 1 and 2, and then you already know how to do this because of the brim. But that's how you start on row 1 when you haven't been doing owl eye. When we come back down, you'll just keep going all the way around again because the pattern is 1 row of purl to 2 rows of owl eye. Okay? So this is row 2. So I will catch up with you after you've done row 3 so I can show you how to get back into the purl seamlessly so we don't have a big gap in the back or anything. So I'm going to show you how to change pegs there. Okay. So 2 rows of owl eye, and then I'll catch you up on the second peg here. So we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so I've come around an owl eye, and I just went over here and knit this one off. So I'm on the last peg here, so I'm going to come back over and do a second owl eye stitch. Tighten it and then just go right into the purl. So we're back to the first row we did, which was purl. And then it's back to purl, 2 rows of owl eye, purl until you get as long as you want the hat to be. And when we get as long as we're going to be, we'll catch back up and we'll go to bind off. So we will see you then. Bye for now. Okay, I'm ready to bind off, but now you should be able to see the pattern better because I got more solid color here. So you can see where it's dark here, you see it's ridged inside with the purl bumps here on the outside coming up. But you can see that what it does is there's the owl eye stitch in there perfectly defined with the ridge coming up. Looks really pretty. If I can get it at another angle where you can see better. There, see, you can see the owl eye stitch. Those 2 little round things that look like 2 eyes looking at you, like eyes looking at you. And then the purl bump on either side of it, there in the purple. Really, really, really pretty stitch. I really like this one. It has the beautiful texture and ridges. And you can't see it really well on the camera where the color is, but I can sure see it. It just like the little colors are popping up 3-dimensional to my eye. Really pretty. So anyway, it's time to bind off. So what you need to do now is do a row or 2 of E-wrap. And the reason for that is I'm going to do a reduced bind off. And so you want it to be nice and loose. So of course, E-wrap is behind the peg in front, and then you just knit it off. That's all you do. So you do a couple rows of that and then the bind off. And I'm going to take you to my bind off video because I've already got one done. and it'll mention that you should have done some E-wrap before you go to bind it off. So we'll do that, and then we'll come back and look at the finished hat. Have fun. See you in a bit. And now we can go ahead and bind it off. And I'm just going to do a slightly decreased bind off so I don't get a lot of bulk. And it's pretty easy to do. So all we're going to do first is do a row of E-wrap. And it doesn't matter which stitch you ended with, whether you ended with the Jupiter stitch or the U-wrap, it'll work fine either way. So we're just going to E-wrap nice and loose all the way around the loom. And the reason you want to keep it loose is you're going to have to move some stitches, and you want to them to be fairly loose to move. I just kind of gently push it to make sure I'm keeping it nice and loose. Okay, and then you're just going to knit the last one to secure it. Knit it over, and then you're just going to go around the loom and knit off the E-wrap. Okay, so I'll just put you on pause and we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to go by twos all the way around the loom, and every second peg is going to go on the first peg, the yarn. So you're going to take it off and you're just going to move it over to the peg before it. So just taking it off and moving it to the peg before it. And you're just going to go all the way around the loom, so you'll have 2 loops on peg 1, nothing, 2 loops on peg 2, nothing, or two loops over here, and you're just going to keep doing that so that every second peg will be blank and every second peg will have the 2 loops on it. Okay, so if you are on a uneven loom, you won't have an even amount of pegs, so you just don't bother doing the last one. Doesn't really matter. And because I kept this nice and loose, it's quite easy for me to move these over. Just awkward because the angle I have it, but okay, so I'm going to put you on pause, and as you see how this is looking, and we're just going to meet up when we have that done. Okay, now that you have that all done, all you're going to do is go around the loom and knit the bottom one over the top, like that. And that reduces the bulk so that your cast off and the back of your hat will lay a lot flatter. And more, and then the one more, and there we are, and there's the working yarn coming out of this one. And then all we're going to do is, with the working yarn, go around the loom 1.5 times and just cut your yarn. Now you can either use your loom hook or a needle, and we're just going to go up and scoop up the loops so we can do a drawstring bind off. And I usually use a needle, but if you were going to use your loom hook, which is easy to do with this method, you just take the yarn and pull it through like that. And if you have a needle, you just put the needle on and you're going to pick it up the same way. I usually use a needle. This is so much easier though when you're doing it sometimes. On a bigger loom, I'd for sure want a needle. Okay, so I'm just going to put you on pause and we'll pick it all up and I'll see you at the beginning. Okay, now when we get all the way around, we make sure we pick up the very first stitch that we had already picked up. We want to make sure that every peg is on here. Now all you have to do is take all the pegs off the loom. You just go around and you just flip them off. I'm just holding on to the drawstring here because I want to make sure that it doesn't come off. And we just take them all off. And you can even do it with your fingers. And there we go. All off the loom. We can just put the loom to the side. We don't need it anymore. And then you're going to take the working yarn and you're just going to drawstring the brim closed. Okay, you're just going to make sure that it's all like that. And then when you get it about halfway, you're just going to take the working yarn and put it through the hat and flip it this way because we're going to finish it on the wrong side. And we just bind it up, and as you see here, it's going to be not as bulky as it would have been. We've thinned that out. Okay, and now this is when we do need a needle. So I'm just going to get a needle. I have a needle in this handy dandy little thing. And also you can cut the working yarn a lot shorter. You just need to sew that close. So I'm going to cut it to about there and put the needle through the yarn, or the yarn through the needle. Okay, there we go. So that's threaded, and we're just going to sew this closed. So what I do is, now that I've bound it up, is I kind of pinch it so I can see where that edge was, and then I make sure it's pulled nice and tight. There's the hole in the middle, so I just want to pinch it so I'm at that hole in the middle. And then I just take the needle and I just sort of sew around in a circle around that hole, just picking up some loops. Okay, and then I'm going to actually do a knot. My loom wants, or my yarn wants to be all weird. go, and I'm going to do another knot. Just want to make sure that this doesn't come apart. I'm just going to go to the other side. And make another knot. And then you can sew the working yarn in if you'd like. I just actually, because it's not going to be reversible, I just cut it and leave it. It's not going to hurt anything. Doesn't bother me. And the other side of your hat looks like this. It's a lot thinner, but we'll take it and we'll stretch our stitches, because that's what you always do when you make a hat, is you stretch your stitches. You pull it every way and make sure it's all stretched out. And then there's your hat. It's looking really nice. The top is flattened a lot better, your beanie hat, than it would have been. And there you go. You have a beautiful beanie hat. Okay, so here's the hat, and all bound off, and I stretched it out, and here it is. And again, here's where you can see the pattern better along the top here. It's a really, really pretty pattern, and it actually you might be able to pick up the pretty grooves in here. We'll find an angle where they show up more, but there's the reduced brim on here, nice and flat, so it's not all puckery. And there you go. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, bye.